Hi, hello, welcome to another video. My name is Elizabeth and this is my YouTube channel, Plant-Based Bride, and in today's video I'm setting up my husband's bullet journal for December 2019. So let's jump right into it. This month my husband requested a Metropolis theme, so if you're not familiar with Metropolis, I'll give you a little mini rundown. Metropolis is a silent film. It's a German expressionist science fiction drama that was released in 1927. So Metropolis is lauded as essentially the pioneer of the science fiction film genre. It's pretty weird, as you'd probably expect from a German expressionist science fiction silent drama that came out in 1927, but it's really awesome. I've only ever seen it once. I would highly recommend, if you're a fan of science fiction, that you check it out. And I was excited to try to make the feeling of this film come to life in a bullet journal setup. I was a little intimidated, but excited. So the first thing I'm working on is sort of the quote page, or my version of a quote page for this setup, which I'm doing opposite of the cover page. And it is a recreation of a title card from the film. So if you have never seen a silent film, they often have title cards pop up with the dialogue or sort of explaining what's happening in the story past what you can get just from the visuals. So this title card is Jason's favorite from the film, and it reads, "Epigram. The mediator between head and hands must be the heart." If you don't know what epigram means, it's a pithy saying or remark expressing an idea in a clever and amusing way. This is Jason's favorite title card from the film, so I tried to recreate the actual title card, which was a basic black title card with this white text on it. I was trying to create one that I could fit horizontally on the page, but I just couldn't make my writing small enough, so I ended up turning it vertically so that I could fit it on the page. And I also needed to add a little extending bit to make it the right width so that I could actually fit the entire little pithy remark. So for the cover page, I'm recreating this really cool poster that we found that was a red and black, very graphic representation of some of the buildings from the film. Jason had the idea that I could do this by cutting out colored paper, and I thought that was awesome. So I'm using some red and black construction paper, and I sketched out all of the buildings on the page first, and then I used that as reference for the size and shapes that I needed to cut out from both the red and black paper. I numbered them and marked their orientation just to try to keep myself organized. And I started by doing all the red pieces, and then I did all the black pieces. Then, building by building, I taped the red and black sections together and then glued them down, starting with the ones that were furthest away in the background, working towards the foreground. And it gives you a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel. It's very graphic, and I really like the effect we ended up getting. It's actually not that thick considering how many layers of construction paper I have on there, but I just think it looks really cool. And I'm glad that Jason had that idea because it was a really good idea. I did mess up one little building at the bottom there. The paper wasn't quite long enough to hit the bottom of the page, so I just cut out a little extra piece of paper and slid it in there and glued it in to fix that, and I don't think it's particularly noticeable. Then I recreated the famous Metropolis font the best I could using my secure microns. As always, all of my supplies will be linked in the description box down below. I asked Jason if he wanted to share a few words on this theme, on Metropolis, so here he is.
This movie checks a lot of boxes for me. It is a cinematic achievement for its time and for its timelessness. Humanity is fighting the same fight predicted in the film. Our struggle to keep our humanity as we integrate our lives with machines, and also the division of people by wealth and classism. I feel the lesson given to us from Fritz Lang can be summed up with a quote: "The mediator between head and hands must be the heart." Another reason this film grabbed me was the history of the missing scenes and the eventual restoration of the film in its near-complete state. The film was initially poorly received in Europe. Paramount in the US picked it up, edited out a significant amount of the film, leaving massive plot holes. This was the only version you could see until very recently. Due to some great archaeology, restoration, and clever work referencing the original live orchestra manuscript, the film now gets to be seen mostly as it was over 80 years after its initial release. Lastly, Lang's vision of the future was haunting. In the film, actors are seen checking financial information on a computer and having face-to-face video chats in 1927. For these reasons and many more, I highly recommend you check out Fritz Lang's The Metropolis. Thanks to Elizabeth for making this awesome bullet journal spread, as she always does.
Thanks, Jason, for sharing your thoughts on the film. Now let's move on to the next spread, which is my monthly spread. As I've explained in the past, my husband uses the calendar page the most of any page in his bullet journal. That's where he writes out his schedule and keeps his life completely organized. So I like to give him relatively large-sized boxes so he can get all that information in there. So starting out with the boxes, keeping it pretty simple. And then I wrote December at the top, again, trying to imitate that classic Metropolis font. Then I'm adding the art on the right side of the page in that blank margin. And here I'm recreating another classic Metropolis poster, which has a robot in the foreground, and then in the background is a bunch of those classic buildings from the film. So I'm recreating the robot in more of a loose line art style, and then creating the buildings in the background as true to the original poster as possible. I wasn't happy with how I drew the eyes. They weren't very representative of the actual robot, so I ended up covering the pupils that I'd created with white gel pen, letting that dry, and then I went back in with a thinner tipped pen and placed the pupils just a little bit higher in the eyes so that it looked more accurate. This only really matters if you're familiar with the robot from the film. I also used my white gel pen to fix a couple little mistakes I made here and there on the spread, and then I used my red Tombow brush pen to draw a line through the days of the week along the top of the calendar, just to tie in the red theme through the spreads. Now I'm moving on to the invoicing spread, which is the same as it has been forever and always since we started doing the invoicing spread. Long story short, my husband's a freelancer, so he needs to track clients and who he's invoiced and for how much so that he can stay on top of that. So that's what this page is for. And then the last page I'm setting up is the first of his notes pages. Again, this is the same as I've done for a while in my husband's bullet journal. He likes for me to set up the first page, and then he will use as many pages as he needs day to day for rapid logging, notes, whatever he needs those pages for. So I, again, recreated that Metropolis font at the top, and then in the bottom right-hand corner, I recreated the iconic clock from Metropolis. There's a man who's sort of manually moving the hands of the clock. And again, I tried to do it in more of a graphic line art style to fit with sort of the feel of this entire setup. And I used my red Tombow brush pen again to draw a line through the header of the invoicing chart to again tie in that little splash of red as an accent throughout the spreads. So that is the whole setup, short and sweet. Here is a little flip through of all of the pages. If you haven't seen Metropolis, I highly recommend it. It's a really, really cool film and a piece of film history, especially if you're a fan of science fiction, which I feel a lot of you are because I regularly talk about my love of science fiction and a lot of you seem to relate. So highly recommend that film. A little reminder, Anna Louisa, who sponsored my last video on Wednesday, they are still having their Black Friday sale. So if you are interested in checking out some really beautiful, sustainably made jewelry at a discount, they have up to 25% off on their website for Black Friday weekend. Go check them out. I'll have the link in the description box yet again, as well as the link to Wednesday's video if you want to see the pieces that I have from them and a little more about that brand, and also just see the video because it's a fun, sustainable haul with some thrift finds, pieces from Reformation, all kinds of fun things. And of course, as always, I want to take a moment to shout out my epic Plant-Based Bride patron squad. My patrons are the absolute best. Seriously, they're an amazing group of human beings, and I'm loving getting to know them better. So here is a shout out for our newest patrons. Welcome to the squad to Kirsten, Franchely, Angela, Autumn, Becky, Laura, and Allison. I'm so excited to have all of you. This month's live stream will be happening on Sunday for my $3 tier patrons. Wallpaper downloads will be coming this weekend. So many fun things. So if you at home are interested in joining the squad, feel free. We would love to have you. There's a link in the description box and in the card to join. All right, that's it from me. I hope you're all having a lovely day. I hope your November was wonderful, and I hope your December is even more wonderful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye, friends.